So finding the king within you. This workshop is really a very direct way to transform the shadows that are blocking you from living the life that you want to live. And first thing to say is I think this is a pretty common part of the human experience. Even if we've done a lot of therapeutic work, we've done a lot of workshops or personal development, so there's some awareness of your patterns already, there can still be this sense that I am not living my life at my full capacity, or I'm not living the life that I'm meant to be living. And the various attempts that we make to get our life in order that often come from our cognitive mind, thinking of solutions, they never quite solve the problem. And this is a telltale sign that there's something else under the surface that is the block. And usually it has a very emotional component. Usually it comes from a younger age, and usually it comes from an attempt that we've made to be who we thought we needed to be when we were younger. So what's really important about this work that I'm offering is it's not, you're not going to get any clever techniques or bolt-ons to your personality to try and kind of fix yourself or make yourself better. Actually, it's about going down through the layers back to the core of who you are. And in that, there's a trust in how we work. There's a trust that in your essence, in your core, you are enough. And that when you find the confidence to rest in that embodied sense of who you are, then things can really begin to open up. Then there can be an owning of flaws within yourself, an owning of the places where you need to get support, and a clarity of the actions that need to be taken in order to grow. So kind of inner vision for who you want to go into, so that your outer vision, so the life that you want can manifest in your world. And these issues, these existential, these emotional issues that deeply affect us, they can't be solved by working out a kind of new strategy or solution. And I'm sure you all know this. I'm sure you've all got experiences of trying all of these new things, but nothing really works. And when this is the case, it's because what needs to change is about the relationship that we have to ourselves, the ways that we are treating ourselves unconsciously. And these come about very early in our lives, usually in our childhood, and they develop from the ways that we were treated, the ways that we were taken care of or not. And these patterns become internalized in a very unseen way. And no matter what clever thinking we do on top of them, it's not going to create change unless we come back down to the roots of these often very emotional places that just need to be held. When we begin to do that, when we begin to hold ourselves in these places, we develop real self-leadership. We can become the parent that we needed to be to ourselves, which creates an inherent centering, an inherent stability, which allows us to be a leader in our own world. So let's talk about an example of one of the relationships to ourselves that we can be wounded in, particularly in relation to this archetype. And that is getting a sense that we are not good enough. So you might have been told that directly. Maybe it's direct verbal feedback from parents or teachers, or more commonly, it's a kind of unspoken sense that you should be more than you are. And it may even be a kind of ancestral shame that's carried, a sense that in your family line there's not being enough. Whatever way this comes in, whatever way this comes into your environment as a child, if it's absorbed, we get a wound in relation to our self-leadership. And when this happens, one of two responses happen, or sometimes both. We either deflate or inflate. We deflate in our leadership. We're not able to access the leader in any way, or we overinflate and we try and prove what a great leader we are. So the deflation feels quite small, feels like we are quite incapable, and there's a sense that even if I try and do something, it's destined to fail because I know it always does for me. I feel like there's a kind of weakness, and there's a sense that I might as well give up because there's no point trying for me. So that's the deflation. The inflation is kind of the opposite. There's this kind of grandiosity, this building up of myself and my world, but it's done in a way to show everyone, to prove to everyone how great I am. And in the inflation, I'm constantly looking out to show people how great I am, and also looking for other people who I can support because I don't need any support myself. That's the wound in the inflation. And of course, we might switch between the two of these, where sometimes we're in our inflation, maybe in work situations or some places in our lives, and then other places we deflate. So what do we do if we see this kind of wounding showing up in us? And this is often the first stumbling block, because even as we see patterns like this within ourselves, we may have a tendency to make them wrong, to think that there's something wrong with us or broken in us, or that we need to be fixed in some way, and then put pressure on ourselves to change. And you might even sense, as I'm saying this, it doesn't actually help. What is really needed is a kind of stepping back from all of these patterns and a very calm and centered witnessing of the whole dynamic, a holding of it all with great care and love, so that our patterns and propensities can exist, not so that they play out in our lives, but so that we can see them and own them within ourselves without shame. When we can begin to own what's happening inside without making it wrong, then we can start to hold ourselves in that in our lives. And this creates a whole lot of stability. It creates stability on a personal level. It creates regulation in the nervous system, so we don't have to be continually searching for ways to alleviate stress or regulate ourselves. We can regulate ourselves just in our being. And it creates a kind of centering in our world, so people will experience us as centered, they'll experience us as more of a leader. It allows us to very gently and carefully look around us and see the things in our lives and just make the changes that we want to make without being involved in all of the neurosis and the child consciousness that actually propitiates these struggles. So how can we work with these patterns to find freedom? And this is a lot of what we do on the retreat. And the first step is really about finding access to that disidentification. First, we need to see the patterns that are happening unconsciously. The shadow, by definition, is always unconscious. It's not the patterns you're already aware of, even if you've done a lot of therapeutic work in the past. It's finding out the ones you don't see and disidentifying and coming back to an embodied sense. And we do that on the weekend, drip by drip, and we're constantly moving back and using little exercises and sharings and rituals and circle work to keep on giving you access to your leader, which will look different from everyone's leader. It's about you finding how this is for you. And what we don't do is we don't use dramatic processes to cathart or to force you to man up and be more than you are. It's more of a relaxing back into yourself and coming back to the truth of who you really are as a man. So then you can own what's there and faults, but also it's about owning your gold. And one thing that is just unanimous, particularly I think within English culture, is that we don't own the good things about us. And usually within our shadow, within our unconscious, there's lots of things that we don't see that are really powerful, really useful resources. So part of the work is, as we begin to explore, particularly if we're exploring wounding and places that are painful, we're also exploring the resources that we didn't even know that we had. And yeah, this is a big part of the work that I really, really love, that it's not like I'm offering something or a way to be that comes from me. I'm just guiding men back to their own natural sense, their own natural sovereignty, their natural gold. Really, I'm creating a space for men to come back home to a sense of their way of being leader, to discover that this place within them where they have access to all of those resources, even if they've never known that place before, even if they doubt that that place exists within their consciousness. We build an environment to allow you to discover that home ground. And what's beautiful about that is that when men lead, they have that place, they have access to that, and that makes all the difference. Of course, and I want to be transparent about this workshop is not going to get rid of all your problems in a single retreat, but it is going to give you a place from which you can witness it, and this is the key. Then you've got more ground to do your own inner work, more ground to stand on, to claim yourself, to be you. So yeah, this is the work we're doing, and this, in a way, I think, is the beauty of humanness and our wounding. That no matter how hard our growing up was, no matter how wounded we are, no matter how skew-whiff our life has gone, we can come back, and we can find that place inside where we can lead our own lives and do what really resonates with us. And I say that with a lot of confidence because I've seen it happen time and time again.